Hello, listeners. Tonight, as usual, Vietnamese ghost stories always tell stories of authors and others for you to listen to. So today I will tell you a story that I experienced during my time working part-time as a student. Today's story is called Ghost Girl in a Milk Tea Shop. If I remember correctly, the story happened in my first year of university. At that time, I was quite free because I hadn't studied much in my first year, so I went looking for a part-time job. I saw a milk tea shop about to open, so I signed up to work. The shop mainly sells takeout, so the area is very small. The advantage is that it saves the owner money on rent. On the opening day, it was very crowded. The shop's area, if I remember correctly, was only about 2.5 meters wide. The structure of the shop is, from the outside, on the left is the bar for employees. Going straight inside, there will be a small warehouse. Next to it is an empty space for chairs and tools. Then there are two restrooms. The special thing is that from the first time I entered, I found the women's restroom quite strange. The men's restroom is normal. There is a small mirror to look at your face, bright white lights. But the women's restroom is a bit larger, with a full-length mirror for female customers to look at their whole body. However, the light there is yellow, so every time I enter, it feels darker than the men's restroom. There is a guy who works with me, 2 years older than me. He is very sensitive to spiritual matters, especially places with problems. On the opening day, the restaurant did very well. Until one day during the lunch shift, from 12 noon to 5 p.m., because there were few customers, there were only 2 employees on duty. I stood at the bar, and that guy was a waiter standing outside to deliver drinks to customers. The restroom was behind the bar counter, so I couldn't see it. Only the people sitting opposite, customers or staff, could see the entrance to the restroom. In front of the 2 restrooms, there was a door leading to the house next door, but that day was Sunday. The other side was locked, so no one could go through. That day, a female customer came in to buy a drink, sat on the opposite chair, and waited. I finished my milk tea and gave it to the waiter. But as soon as I put the cup in the bag, I saw that waiter jump, dropping the cup. I also saw the female customer look surprised. She asked, "What did you see?" The waiter answered, stuttering. "Yes, I saw a woman go from the other door to the women's restroom. I saw it clearly. She was wearing a white aoba with small yellow flowers. And her face, I looked like she had lost her soul." The female customer fell silent after hearing that. Because the glass of water had fallen, I made another glass for her. After that, I asked again, and my friend said that he really saw it and he was very afraid of ghosts. He immediately called the owner of the restaurant and told him what happened. The owner also called the landlady to report it. The landlady only said one sentence. "That woman doesn't like the yellow light. Change the light to another one." Just saying that, not confirming whether there was a ghost or not. But hearing that, everyone in the restaurant was scared. From that day on, the owner brought an incense burner and placed it in the warehouse. The warehouse was very small, so he put it in the 3rd compartment of the storage cabinet. The next day, I was on duty again. My co-worker asked to come in late, so at first I had to work alone. I only dared to stand close to the counter door, not daring to go near the warehouse. Unexpectedly, the owner of the restaurant went into the warehouse, carrying a box of ribs rice. He opened the rice, poured fish sauce, and muttered something as if praying. I thought he was coming to sit with me, but unexpectedly he just said, "You watch the shop. This lady only likes to stay in the warehouse, so you guys limit going in and out of the warehouse." About half an hour later, around 2:30 p.m., I went into the warehouse to get sugar. By chance, I looked at the lunchbox and saw that it looked like it was covered in a layer of slime, like rice that had been left overnight for several days. It was disgusting. I knew it then. In general, my job is to mix drinks, so I have to go in and out of the warehouse to check the inventory at the beginning and end of the day. Especially the girls are very scared. If I work the afternoon shift and am a little late, I have to go into the warehouse alone. But the warehouse is cramped. Where is there a place to sit and eat? When I go in there, I feel like I am being sympathetic, being stuffed, being forced to eat. I feel very scared. Every time I go to check the inventory, I always feel like there is a gaze following me. From there, the incident began. All the staff in the shop knew about the presence of her, a spirit in the warehouse, but no one knew the reason why. Rumors had been spread. One day, the shop owner had the opportunity to talk to the landlady. She told me, in the past, that woman was also the owner of this house. At that time, she was pregnant, but due to disagreements with her husband's family, she was so sad that she cut her throat and committed suicide right in the current women's restroom. The landlady also added that the soul of that woman could not be kept, so if you know that she is in the shop, just ask her, pray every day. She will bless you and not harm anyone. From then on, every shift had to make offerings to her. A strange thing was that before, when I cooked tapioca pearls, they often burned. Since this happened, if I made offerings properly, it was fine, but if I didn't make offerings or made offerings late, the tapioca pearls would burn. Especially brown sugar tapioca pearls. I had to stir constantly or they would stick. There were times when the offerings were late and they burned, almost sticking to the pan to death. During that time, I was very scared and all the employees in the shop were scared. But because the shop was doing well, the benefits were good and everyone was friendly. No one wanted to quit. Then one day, the boss nominated 3 shift leaders from all the employees, and luckily I, the youngest, was chosen as the shift leader. The shift leader has the responsibility of managing the employees, always coming home later than everyone else to close the door, check the lights, and especially at the end of the day, burning votive paper money to worship her. On full moon days, we have to worship more. On days when we worship more, the revenue is very good. One day, another shift leader, called Kay, who worked the shift before me, was reminded by the manager, if you worship fruit, you have to buy a different type of fruit. You cannot take the fruit that is currently in business. Because the shop sells milk tea and fruit, there are a lot of oranges, guavas, apples, kiwis, etc. in the refrigerator. But Kay was lazy, did not go to the market to buy new fruit, but took oranges and pomegranates from the refrigerator to worship. The consequence was that when my shift, the next shift, opened the refrigerator, I discovered that the fruits were rotten and black, even though they had just been imported yesterday and were all supermarket goods. I also saw crushed pomegranate seeds, leaking juice everywhere. I just went to report to the manager. The manager called Kay to ask. Then Kay said he just took some fruit from the cabinet for convenience, without thinking about anything. Kay was scolded. After that, the shop hired another manager named Tam. This guy was good, but looked a bit weak. That day, around 3 p.m., Tam went into the women's restroom to check the drainage system. I was standing outside the counter when I heard him screaming. I ran out and saw him faint on the spot. I thought he had low calcium, but when he woke up, he said, when he opened the restroom door, he saw a woman looking at herself in the mirror. He froze for a few seconds, then realized that the person had no legs. Too scared, he fainted on the spot. He said, I know there is a spirit in the shop, but if you don't destroy it, just pray. She will bless me. Everyone agreed. No one dared to call a shaman to exorcise the spirit, afraid of offending her. But Kay, the person who had offered fruit, asked the landlady for the deceased's information, name, age, date of birth, etc., on the pretext of going to pray for the deceased. Kay knew a certain monk, and then this monk came to the shop. The monk came in, talked for a while, and then left. Anyone who heard the story felt worried. Since then, every time I worked the night shift, I had to stay later than everyone else, check the electricity, and prepare the offerings. Cakes, votive paper money, porridge, etc., and bring them to the front of the shop, right in front of the women's restroom, to burn and offer to her. At that time, I worked a lot of night shifts. I usually finished work at 12 midnight and then had to make offerings before I could go home. When I got home, it was almost 1 a.m. I was haunted by this. One time I got home, didn't have time to shower, and took out my books to study because I had a test at 6 a.m. the next morning. The window was by my bed, and it was always closed. That night, around 1 a.m., while I was studying, I smelled a very strong smell. The smell of incense, the smell of burning paper money, straight into my nose. I didn't know if it was because of an obsession or if it was real. While I was confused, the fan under my feet, which was spinning normally, suddenly made a noise. Then the blades broke. The fan hit my hand, tearing a long line. I still have a scar. The next day, I quit my job. I thought that leaving the shop would be the end of it, but it didn't end that easily. That night, I went back to my hometown. The car had just stopped in front of my house when my phone rang. An unknown number, no name saved. I picked up the phone only to hear the sound of wind on the speaker, then a woman's voice whispering, "Why, didn't you say hello?" My hands got goosebumps and I turned off the phone. Thinking that someone was teasing me, I didn't pay attention. But that night, I had a strange dream. I was standing in the middle of a milk tea shop. The shop was dark and cold, with only a faint light from the warehouse. In my dream, I heard the warehouse door creak open. Then someone slowly walked out. I didn't dare turn around, but I could still feel the cold on the back of my neck, as if someone was standing right behind me. A cold hand touched my shoulder. I woke up with a start, my body drenched in sweat. But what scared me the most was the cut on my hand the day before, which should have been just a scratch, was now red and swollen, spreading as if it had pus. I went to the hospital and the doctor said the wound was seriously infected, as if something strange had scratched it. After that, I went to the temple and asked the monk to chant sutras to dispel my spirit. The monk didn't say much, only asking me one question. "Did you promise something to the dead that you didn't keep?" I was speechless. Suddenly, my mind flashed back to the last night at the shop when I had hurriedly left. I forgot to make an offering. Since then, even though I had stopped working, every full moon or new moon, I still lit an incense stick in the yard facing the south, where the milk tea shop was that year, and muttered a sentence. "Sister, I'm sorry. Go in peace." Although many years have passed, the scar on my hand is still there. Every time the weather turns cold, it stings, like a reminder. There are places, there are people, that you can't just leave and get out of debt.